Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council meetings can take place in person as long as physical distancing of 2 meters can be maintained between participants. At this time, according to Alberta Health, public attendance at council meetings should be facilitated through virtual means. If you've submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, that any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. Please note, this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of the meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Because we have a mix of council members in person and via teleconference, we'll conduct a roll call. Reeve Link is present. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Present.
Councillor Wilson.
Present and accounted for.
Councillor Bigger. Here. Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Councillor Kester.
Present.
Councillor Armstrong. So far. Additionally, our voting procedure will be modified for our teleconference meetings. I will call for any councillor who is opposed to a motion to indicate verbally. For any motions with expressed opposition, we will conduct a roll call vote. We have an agenda that was circulated. Does anybody have any additions?
Through the chair, one addition. It can either go on my council report or in as an information item for impact on a proposed energy from waste facility in New County, the social economic impact.
So let's add that document under 3.72 as an addendum to Councillor Armstrong's report.
I have an addition as well, just on my report to ratify 2 meetings for per diem and mileage for August 4th.
We'll just do that following your report under 3.2.
Madam Chair, I also have an addition. It's Brian from administration. Just under the CAO section, the 2020 revised pay grid.
We'll add that under 4.12. Any other additions or changes?
Yeah, it's just addition under my report, ASB member at large structure and organizational meeting. And board member, there's a sick board member, so I would just like to discuss sending fruit basket or something.
You said ASB structure?
Yeah, for one. Member at large is, we have 2 spots opening up, so we just would like to discuss.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll add that under 3.3. Any other additions or changes? A motion to approve the agenda.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We had the minutes circulated from the regular council meeting of August 18th. Did anybody see any errors or omissions? If not, a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 2.1, bylaw 2020-26.
Good morning, Council. This is Megan here to present bylaw 2020-26, found
Sorry.
on page 8.
Megan, I'll just open the public hearing. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
sorry.
was a little bit slow grabbing my paper. My apologies. I'll move that
Sorry,
the
just
process
excited.
for the, no, I'm sorry. I'll move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearing will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I'll call the public hearing for bylaw 2020-26 to order. Welcome, everybody. Does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And can administration verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
We can.
And were there any written submissions beyond the one that was presented this morning?
I received one late one. I'm not sure if that's the one you were presented this morning.
No, this actually is related to a different issue.
Okay. I did receive one delayed one. Would you, would council like me to read it?
Does any councillor oppose? Yes, Megan, if we could hear it, please.
Sure. Okay. So they said, great to get a glimpse of the bylaw amendments. I have to say I am in near complete agreement with how the new amendments have come through. They will be online for the council meeting on September 1st. Wheatland has some minor untapped potential with its proximity to Calgary with a robust Alberta cannabis retail market. To meet the demands and that of the market, from what I see in the changes to the bylaws, is an opening of that potential to the various classes of licenses that Health Canada has allowed. These changes now put Wheatland close to in line with the federal intentions for the expansion of cannabis legislation and other counties in the area to compete with. It is still very early on in the cannabis business diversity landscape, where the opportunity will evolve and the bylaw allowance here should be in line with opening up options for prospective businesses. The one critique I feel is important to raise is the processing allowance under cannabis production facility. The opportunity and the federal licensing allow for varying methods of processing or extraction and products that could be made by manufacturing, such as repackaging, baking, cooking, etc., resulting in various sizes of processing facility requirements. Not including cultivation, this is only for processing licenses. Most processing licenses will ship in third-party product. Regarding the zoning for cannabis production facility being allowed for use in intensive industrial area only, in the facility some of these processes use pressurized CO2, butane, etc., which when in confined enclosed area have inherent risks that building codes handle. I understand that activity and land use being under more of an intense scrutiny if it is a large-scale operation, defined by multiple manufacturing lines and using those gases as an extraction technique. Now, my point being is that some of these activities under a processing license don't involve any extraction, manufacturing, etc., that involve hazardous gases or the process itself is non-hazardous. Examples being manufactured pre-rolling joints, solventless extraction, such as using heated plates and pressure to squish the flour's resin into a liquid, or an ice water extraction method that uses temperature and agitation. They are very benign processes that can also be done in a very small area. My thoughts are that the designated zoning of intensive is going too far when many factors play into intensity of the activities being performed at the facility. If a facility is 2,000 square feet with 5 employees and manufactures pre-rolls, or the person that wants to make edibles with kitchen-like activities, could that be considered a light industrial activity? Not intensive like other industrial businesses. And importantly, is the small operator being taxed correctly under an intensive industrial designation? with the mindset that the need to create different classes of bylaws and the zoning allowances is to open up the opportunity for the startup operator, bringing me back to discuss the opportunity of the proximity of Wheatland to a large market like Calgary to gain local recognition. By further developing allowances with the better understanding that not all processing is a hazardous activity or even intensive by methodology, size of the processing facility could be the best indicator of the intensity of the land use, not the processing activity alone. So staff did respond and explained that the intensive industrial use was in addition to the existing industrial general use, and the person did respond saying that they felt that due to the size and operating capacity, a prospective processor under a cannabis production facility could be zoned accordingly after a land use assessment. Due to the lack of intensive activities, some degree of the processing done on site can be moved out of intensive industrial district to rural business or industrial general districts. Again, the same with when I brought the differences in operating capacity with cultivation facilities. Having a small operator fall into the same category as a large operator is limiting to that startup phase. Possibly looking like this. So a processor could fit into two categories of general rules, intensive and non-intensive. Intensive uses would have CO2 or other compressed gases and have multiple extraction lines over 3, and they're sized over 3,000 square feet. A non-intensive use would be defined as does not and will not be using compressed gases under 3 extension lines, sized under 3,000 square feet. And that is the whole of the comment that we received. So if there's no questions on that, I will continue with reading the RFD.
Sure, thank you, Megan.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to present bylaw 2020-26, which is on page 18 of Council's package. The proposed bylaw will update multiple land use districts, specific land use regulations, and definitions regarding cannabis production facilities and cannabis cultivation. The proposed amendments will impact the entire county. Staff circulated the application internally and to external agencies, and we received one comment from Rocky View. It was received after the report was submitted, which is why it doesn't appear in Council's package. So Rocky View did state that they had no comments on the amendments to the land use bylaw, being that the IDP between Rocky View County and Wheatland is still under review. In the interim, they requested that development permits received in relation to cannabis cultivation and cannabis production facilities that are close to the municipal borders be circulated to Rocky View for review and comments. And so staff explained to Rocky View that we don't circulate cannabis production facility applications if they are permitted use. And we did ask if they would be interested in receiving the approved development permit application, the approved development permit in these instances if they fall within 1.6 kilometers of the border, but I have not received a response yet. We did also receive a comment from an interested developer, which I read out earlier. They also expressed interest in attending the public hearing, so they may actually be on the line. So staff reached out to researched surrounding municipalities and reached out to a couple of developers who had previously obtained a development permit for a cannabis production facility, and to a developer who had expressed interest in obtaining one in order to learn what the current trends are and to learn what difficulties the developers faced. Based on this, staff is proposing the following through bylaw 2020-26. A new use, cannabis cultivation, which means the use of land, buildings, or structures for the purpose of growing cannabis under authorization by license pursuant to the cannabis regulations. This use is proposed as discretionary in agricultural, general, and rural business district, and as permitted in industrial general. Staff is also proposing removing the restriction that cannabis production facilities locate within the WASP, or West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan. None of the municipalities contacted have a geographical restriction and have had few complaints once those facilities were constructed. They attribute this to the low population density around these facilities. Staff is also proposing to decrease the setback requirements for cannabis production facilities to 150 meters or 492 feet from a parcel used for a school, childcare facility, day home, or similar use. Originally, the setback was 500 meters or 1,640 feet. The second proposed setback amendment is a setback from a dwelling. Though it is remaining at 100 meters or 328 feet, staff is proposing the setback be measured from the boundary of the development rather than the property line. This will allow landowners to construct a cannabis cultivation facility on their agriculturally zoned parcels without needing to subdivide. It will also be easier to meet setbacks in the industrial areas in the county. Pages 25 and 26 contain a summary of the changes made to Section 8.3 of the Land Use Bylaw to clarify those proposed changes. The proposal generally supports the relevant strategies, objectives, and policies within the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, Regional Growth Management Strategy, Municipal Development Plan, and cannabis regulations. They support the economic guidelines by diversifying the industrial and agricultural land use districts within Wheatland County. Administration's recommendations are on page 18 of Council's package. The staff is recommending that Council grant second and third reading to Bylaw 2020-26. There are three options before Council: to approve the recommendation, to not approve it, or to approve an alternate recommendation. That concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for administration?
Through the chair, what is the normal practice for these outfits with their waste? Is that land spread, whatever waste they produce, or what do they do with it?
Through the chair, I didn't research that, unfortunately, so I don't know off the top of my head. From the other cannabis production facilities that we have in the county, they have to basically dispose of it or make any of their waste, mix it with like kitty litter and water and stuff to make sure it's not technically cannabis anymore. But what happens to it after that, I'm not sure.
Why wouldn't we ask them for some kind of a proposal as to what they do with their waste? Why would we leave that on silent?
Wouldn't that be something that the DP would cover rather than land use?
Yeah, it says right here, a waste management plan shall be submitted with the application of a development permit.
Yeah.
Under, what is that under?
It-
8.3,
It's at the bottom of page 25.
bottom of 25.
Yeah, I know, but why isn't it in our, if we're gonna put it in there, why isn't it in our? Because it says in here that they're not asking for it in the land use bylaw. If I'm reading this right.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, I don't think I understand your question. It's remaining in section 8.3.
Staff is not requiring the cannabis cultivation use to provide a waste management
Okay.
Where are you
or
reading that?
landscaping plan as it's considered ag use, but it is considered ag use, but what do they do with their waste? They have waste, what do they do with it?
What page are you on, Councillor Armstrong, just so we're all looking at the same thing?
I'm on 19. What's in the, I know you can do it on the conditions, but why would they not just put it in the part of their proposal?
So in that point there, in the staff report, it just says staff does not agree with changing the requirements for landscaping or waste management plan. I think they had heard from industry that industry found that cumbersome or excessive to be requesting those things. And staff is suggesting that that's common practice with all of our developments. And so despite kind of their industry consultation suggesting that, they don't agree.
Yeah,
And so
but
we're
a waste-
recommending we
A
leave
waste
that in.
management plan can be as simple as saying that it's land wasted or it's sent to a landfill.
Yep, for sure. So that's what it's saying. Staff is continuing to request that. That's why it is in the land use bylaw where Councillor Bigger read it at the bottom of page 25 there.
Through
when
the
it-
chair, sorry, I see what Ben's talking about, or sorry, what Councillor Armstrong's talking about, where it says staff is not requiring cannabis cultivation use to provide a waste management or landscaping plan. I just need to double check to make sure if the verbiage in section 8.3 reflects that.
Okay.
The only issue that I have is adding cannabis cultivation to Ag General District. I know we're seeing in your area especially, certain cannabis facilities that we don't have anything to do with are hurting the way of life of rural landowners. So I think that was the point of having industrial parks, and I've said it multiple times with different developments. We have to put developments that are more of a nuisance in areas that the landowners are okay with, and to allow it on Ag General, I mean, we could have it all over the place. I mean, we watched Vulcan County fight over one of the largest developments with cannabis facilities. You know, last year, just on the windmill, on the power line road there, south of the gravel pit. And it was because they didn't pick a smart spot and they allowed it to go on Ag. So that's the only concern I have. Minor, but it is my concern.
But with these federally licensed personal grow operations, that they don't ask us for anything anyhow, there's nothing we can do about it.
This doesn't apply to that.
And that does, you know, right, so,
No, but it's still, you have facilities like that, so we're gonna allow facilities similar to that one. Sure, we have control over it, but into those same areas, right? It's still gonna have the same smell as the federally operated ones. It's gonna have the same nuisances as the federally operated ones, whether we have control or not.
right, but at the DP process, we could say no, because there's too many people in the area, right?
Yes, 100%. But
circulated.
But, that being said, council's change, land use is a little stronger.
Got 1.5 mile from my place, you might as well have one too.
He's going to town. But that's the only concern I have. Have specific areas in the county. Can make those areas larger and more common, but I don't think they should just be thrown on whichever quarter section somebody wants. Like we have Goldfinch, we have West Highway 1, we could have one in Gleason, we could have one around certain communities. I mean, just to have one out by Makepeace or around Hammer Hill or Nightingale, I mean, it's just hard for me to fathom that.
And to further that a little bit too, having it closer to a water source,
Yeah.
regional water line or something like that would probably be better for everybody, so they wouldn't impact groundwater. I know that's part of the process too. I hear what you're saying, I kind of agree with it, that we should maybe look at changing some or adding some more areas instead of just opening it up for everywhere. Some areas that have the room for it, for sure.
So, rather than have Ag General, why wouldn't we put that under direct control, so it has to come back, it has to come to council for a change of the use of a portion of land to make it possible,
Yeah.
rather than just Ag General.
Or rural business. Rural business is fine. It is a rural business that has to do with agriculture. I mean, to make people redesignate land, I mean, yeah, there's a fee, but it's not saying no.
So I'm hearing potentially leave the addition as permitted in industrial general and intensive industrial. Make it discretionary, perhaps in rural business, but not make it discretionary in Ag general. I don't know if there's consensus. Well, we don't need consensus. We could move an amendment to the proposed changes or make a motion with an amendment to what's proposed.
Would that, and this is, I'm not trying to be unfriendly to the industry itself. I fully support the industry, actually. And I don't want to step on the toes of the developers with that, and I'm sure that was probably a big issue for them, right? Is to keep it in ag.
Yeah, so just quickly, through the Reeve to council, that's precisely it. I mean, when staff conducted the best practice soliciting also industry, that was one of the concerns, right? So these parameters that are set forth that Megan presented are reflective of a balanced approach between both policy, municipal policy, and also industry preference as well. It's a balanced approach that we're recommending.
Just curious, what surrounding municipalities, do they have it in ag as discretionary?
Megan, do you have that response?
I'd have to look it up. We pulled cannabis cultivation from Rocky View County, so I just need to look at their bylaw real quick to see whether they have discretionary or permitted there.
And that's a big factor for me, just because I don't want to be less competitive. If 3 of our surrounding municipalities do have it in ag, well, that changes a lot of what I think, just because I don't want to lose that competitive advantage. But I also...
In the report, it does say Rocky View created a separate land use.
Yeah.
Cannabis cultivation.
By no means do I think whether you rezone to cannabis cultivation parcel or light industrial, rural business, or heavy industrial, it doesn't matter.
Through the chair, so Rocky View has it in their agricultural general district as discretionary, the cannabis cultivation. Agricultural small parcel, business agriculture, oopsie daisy. And now those are the 3 land uses that they have cannabis cultivation in as a discretionary use. Processing. Their cannabis processing, they have it as a discretionary use in business agriculture, rural commercial, heavy industrial. Those are the 3 land uses they have their cannabis processing in.
And Megan, were you able to confirm about Councillor Armstrong's question, just about kind of the how to
Yes,
interpret the report and the waste management and landscaping plan?
Yeah, through the chair, that looks like that was a staff oversight, so we spoke about it in the report and then we didn't reflect it in the bylaw, so apologies for that. If a waste management plan isn't desired for a cannabis production, a cannabis cultivation use, then that will need to be amended, the bylaw. Otherwise, as it is now, a waste management plan is required for a cannabis cultivation and cannabis production facility use.
So if we just kind of disregard that statement in the report, I think the bylaw does reflect what you would prefer to see. Is that correct, Councillor Armstrong? Any other questions? Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in support of the application? And are there any persons who would like to speak with concerns or in opposition to the proposed amendments? Does staff have any final comments?
We don't know.
Thank you for your presentation. We will close the public hearing for bylaw 2020-26. Council's wishes.
I'll move second reading for the bylaw.
Councillor Kester has moved
2020.
second reading. As proposed. Or I guess as per first reading. Council discussion. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Duration of third reading. Councillor Armstrong has moved third reading. Council discussion.
So just a comment, sorry, I didn't have it pulled up for the last vote, but, so let's say Nihil does not have it in discretionary. Newell. So I am still a little hesitant on that.
Sorry.
According to the land use in Nihil. Permitted uses, almost the same as ours, but discretionary, there's nothing. In the Cs, we have cemetery, cheese processing, commercial kennel, commercial tower, community garden, community hall, corn maze, creative architecture, culinary herb production, cut flower market.
Through the chair, am I permitted to make comment? I'm not sure.
Certainly.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at the Nihil bylaw as well, they differentiate between recreation and medicinal cannabis. So their cannabis recreation production facilities must be under a direct control district. Their medical is discretionary use in industrial.
Do you have Newell up by any chance? Just because I'm
Yeah.
way slower than
Oh,
you.
sorry. I was looking at Nihil. My bad. No.
Yeah, no, Nihil's good. I'm glad. I was just hoping to get a good idea on all the surrounding municipalities.
Yeah, just bear with me. I'll pull it up right now.
I hate Newell's website, so.
Not. Oh, it has to download. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. Newell's website's really confusing. That's okay. You can continue on, Amber. No worries.
We do have a motion for third reading on the floor. Any further council discussion?
I won't be supporting the motion just due to the difference in where to put cannabis facilities, whether it's discretionary or not in ag general. I think we should be mitigating the problems ahead of time rather than at the DP point.
Any other discussion? I have some reservations. Go ahead.
Yeah, So if it's discretionary, it goes to MPC and it gets, circulated, comments can be taken in, and MPC decides if it's discretionary or not, and then it goes to the development permit.
I'm
If it's
very
a
well-
land yeah, and the land rezoning is council.
Yeah, I'm very aware of the process. I don't like how we can mitigate the problems beforehand rather than at the DP process, which is appealable, as said previously.
Right.
That's my reservation as well, is the fact that, we could take into account potential nuisances at the DP stage, but it is the appeal ability of it that is concerning for me. Not sure if there's any other discussion. It's a,
Well, I don't have a problem being at discretionary.
anyone else want to weigh in?
Just on a further level, we have a regional water line that is looking for customers to bring down the price of water. And if we're gonna allow development outside of certain areas, especially one like Gleason, that could bring down the price of water substantially if we get enough users down there. But if we allow developments just to go and put a well up on any quarter section, it defeats the whole purpose of that line. So it's,
Through the chair, through the, through the bylaw also, they could be required to apply for a water license, depending on their use too, so that may restrict some of them. Just go and build a water. Depending on what their volume is, they still need.
The other challenge that I foresee is enforceability, because we do indicate that the cannabis cultivation, like, cannot, I'm trying to find where I read it, create nuisances
Yeah.
with odor and that type of thing,
Yeah.
but the enforceability of that we know can be challenging.
down the wrong tube, sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's under M. Shall not produce any off-site nuisances, including but not limited to odor, dust, and noise. But that can be,
It's easy to control.
it's easy to control. No enforcement challenges there. Any further discussion? Is any counselor opposed? I am. We'll go through a roll call vote. Reeve Link is opposed. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm opposed.
Counselor Wilson.
Opposed.
Counselor Bigger.
I'll approve.
Counselor Eichert.
Approve.
Counselor Kester.
Approve.
Counselor Kester. Counselor Armstrong.
Approved, I guess.
Motion is carried. They're doing it in random order.
I'm trying to figure out how big the hill is.
Died in it.
We'll move to 2.12, public hearing for bylaw 2020-36. Does any member of the public have an objection to any counselor sitting on council for the public hearing? And can administration please verify that notification was done as per the MGA?
We can, and I'd also like to add that after the creation of the agenda package, we've received a letter in regards to this application that has been circulated to council members. So if you would like to read it and give indication when you're finished, I will proceed with the presentation.
And was the letter circulated to Councillor Kester?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just give council a minute to review the correspondence.
One we're dealing with, this one here.
It is, yeah.
What has, I'm looking at something.
Page 29.
That's what I'm on, but isn't that to deal with a skating rink?
Yeah, I think this is
It's across the road from.
just a concern about the traffic that could be impacted by the approval of the arena,
Oh, okay.
potentially.
Maybe you should try to fight for a post office.
Looks like everybody has finished reviewing the letter. And that was the only written correspondence.
That's correct, yes.
Perfect. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, council members. Graham Allison here, presenting bylaw 2020-36. This application would amend land use bylaw number 2016-01 to add community recreation facility as a discretionary use in Cell 8 of Direct Control District 7 to facilitate the construction of a temporary outdoor skating rink. Cell 8 of the Direct Control is located within Northeast 8, 25, 26 west of the 4th Meridian. And this cell contains 4.59 acres within the lakes of Muirfield. Staff has circulated the application to external agencies and internally, as well as to adjacent landowners within a 1-mile radius of the subject land. Staff received one letter from the adjacent landowners and no objections from internal or external agencies. Tentative plan on page 32 of your agenda package will show the site is currently undeveloped. And on page 33, there's an air photo, or sorry, page 34. An air photo showing that the site is currently undeveloped and was recently acquired by the county. The proposal generally aligns with the strategies, objectives, and policies within the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Regional Growth Management Strategy, the Municipal Development Plan, and will bring the parcel into better alignment within the land use bylaw. Administration is recommending the council council grant first, second, and third reading for bylaw 2020-36. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Graham. My apologies, I don't think that I actually called the public hearing to order, so I am calling the public hearing to order. My apologies. And just to confirm, if any member of the public has an issue with any councillor sitting. All right.
So through the chair, when I read this letter, they're not opposed to the amendment. What they're opposed to is if we do this amendment, it opens it up to more amendments, but our land use bylaw is always open for amendment. It's not, this isn't creating a precedent of any kind. It's always open for amendments. So, and I don't know what I think her concern was if we allow this, then we're opening it up to any other ones, but that's already.
Yeah, reading this, I read that that whole area should not be developed, but that's precisely what it's there for.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak in support of the proposed amendment? Is there any member of the public who would like to speak with concerns or in opposition to the amendment? Any final comments from administration?
No final comments.
Thank you. Nothing else, I will close the public hearing for bylaw 2020-36.
We'll move first reading.
And then we can have discussion.
Yep.
If we could put on page 33 on the big screen, and if I had a laser pointer.
Your pen,
Well, I just,
I do
oh, can we get dark?
Sometimes Ben has.
No, it's easier, never mind. Tom will get mad and throw it at someone.
so, I'm definitely not opposed to this at all. Like, I know the community wants this, but that frontage there along 264, I mean, there has been some discussion about future development of that. I'd hate to hinder that by putting this there. Don't know, I know previously there, people had talked, where are we at? Let's go here. People had talked about having something back in this area too. We own all this, right? There is water sewer lines throughout this whole area all the way through here. So this is probably 5 years away at best. So this here is right, I mean, that, if we had somebody that wanted to put a gas station or something in, or are we putting something there and then having to move it in a couple of years? I don't want to do that. That's my concern.
Well,
And I know the existing arena was, the Mercantile is here. There was one in the low area right here, and then the golf course starts here. I don't know why that site wouldn't be redone, but I don't know.
there's a community hall across the road.
There is a community hall across the road. They had discussed talking to them, but they don't have the land area right now. They'd have to buy more to do that. So I guess the background of this, the community has gotten a outdoor skating rink very similar to what Carsland has donated to them from, I forget which oil and gas outfit did it. A couple years back, they've had it in storage. So they've been just looking for a spot.
Cost us 300, what was it, Donna? 300?
So those are my concerns. I know that it was been discussed before, but I didn't realize this was a spot that we were looking at very closely.
Through the read, just in response, so we did look at both the site to the south of the road as well in the center north of Muirfield. We were looking at those and we had grading issues on that we were looking at in choosing those. All of those sites were considered. In the end, we chose that site both because it's a temporary development meant to be there for this season and possibility of renewing next season if there's not another use found for the site. But otherwise, we found in terms of access and grading that this was the best site available right now.
So they're not going to want lighting and electrical? Or with an outdoor rink, they're going to want that because there's no point in doing it. Market blocks. I just don't want them to invest a bunch of money and then we have to tear it out because someone wants to develop that land. We're just going to have problems in the future. Because there is more excitement all the time with this now that we've taken it over. If we come up with a wastewater solution, there could be potential for somebody to come in and say, hey, this is a good area to develop. I'd like to have that. Oh, well, we have a skating rink there. Well, let's fix the skating rink problem right now. Put it in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So through the roof again, the site was chosen as a temporary site so that there's that possibility for that. And when it comes to lighting and water, then we know that there's a sewage hookup to that site, or sorry, a water hookup to that site as well, that we can move in temporary lighting if this is something that is that we're going to undertake for this season. And again, the nature of the temporary rink would allow that if there was an idea for development in the future, then we could move upon that.
And just to supplement Graham's comments there, part of the benefit to having a temporary site too is that we in fact do really have a large say into what happens here now. So we are aware, in fact, that this is temporary. So if there's any development interest in these particular sites, we have the ability to in fact let a developer know that this is temporary. So there is no deterrent to a potential investment just because there's a temporary rink. So we have that open dialogue and communication with HOA members, with board members, and all of the individuals and the ratepayers in Muirfield. So we have the ability to then in fact tell a developer, this is a temporary site. There won't be a deterrent to potential future investment and development with a temporary skating rink there.
But we put ourselves in the situation of back in this position because of direct control, that we're gonna take down a skating rink to put up something else, and we're gonna have to face that.
Yeah, this application was brought forward while working with residents and addressing their needs.
No, I understand, but, I just, wrong spot. And that's just my personal feeling, because once we start getting the ball rolling with development, and it's out in front of the gate, and something behind the gate, I mean, and I realize there's some issues with that, with, general public too, so.
Just,
I wouldn't feel right not saying what
yeah, and as a word of caution, I understand it's temporary, but temporary tends to become permanent. Once they've used it once or twice, and then you decide you're gonna move it for development, then you'll have them screaming that they're mad at the developer because they're all this kind of stuff. So I understand where Scott's coming from. It's
we have
it's
so
like
much
a
land
rumor.
there.
Yeah.
Right now, I just think there's gotta be a better spot that we could do it.
Well, going through this application, all divisions were activated looking at it, and we could not locate a suitable spot that was for a temporary site right now. In fact, I know that there are, in working with the HOA and other individuals, they are looking for a more permanent solution, and that's something that the community is mobilizing around right now.
My opinion, this should be on the other side of the road, it should be by the home. We should figure out a way to facilitate it. I'd be okay with it as long as we say that, you know,
Coming out in 2 years.
yeah, and we're not putting lights on it, we're not doing anything like that.
I agree with you there, because I don't wanna see them putting a bunch of money in infrastructure and have it being a temporary thing, 'cause, one of my biggest pet peeves is funding something it's just money that's going for no permanent solution. I'd rather fund something more permanent. Not saying that we're funding this, but I'm just saying, you know, I don't wanna see money wasted. And I know they had talked to Huntley's before about getting some land, beside the hall. Of course, there's money involved and things like that, so. And they don't have the access to water there. That's one of the other problems.
So is there any move by that community or yourself to work with the residents to find a permanent site, so that when you say this is only a temporary site because we're looking for a permanent site, and we hope to have that within 2 years?
I believe staff have been working with the HOA.
Is that what the idea is, that they're aware of that?
Yeah, through the REAV, absolutely. So I know that this group, in working with them, are very excited to have a temporary. They're under the understanding this is temporary, and they are moving towards a permanent solution for a recreational area, which would include an outdoor rink.
So are you involved with that?
I've been to one meeting. I haven't been involved in this at all.
What are the
Could get
current,
involved. This is the first I've heard. Could get involved. The counselor should be involved in that, then, should he not? If the community's looking for something like that, and it's gotta come to this table, then you should be involved in the groundwork with the community to get it in place.
Yeah, just with the HOA, I'm an administrative liaison with
Yeah.
administration, with working with them.
What are the current uses for cell 8 in the DC?
So I would have to confirm all of the existing uses, but the intent of that site currently is for an active seniors living facility, so medium density, senior
That was
housing.
in the ASP, what it was
Yes,
kind of
correct.
envisioned as.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What I'm worried about, cost creep, because now we have water there, wastewater there. Well, not wastewater, but we have sewer pipes there. So now we're gonna go in there and it'd be really nice if we could set up some sort of a water pumping so we can pump the water and all this. This is all gonna cost us money on a temporary site, and there's gonna be lights in there, and we're gonna bring in electricity, and all of a sudden, there's gonna be so much money into it that we're not gonna be able to, the best piece of commercial property we have in that area, and we're not gonna be able to use it because it's gonna cost us $500,000 to move the damn thing.
Well, we just stay firm and not do those things.
Yeah.
Quite simple.
Yeah, but you're leaving in a year.
What,
Thanks,
what is wrong with where it was at? Because they had a community one there for years, and I know it wasn't very big, but do they need a full-size rink? Could they not size it to fit the existing, where they had it before, behind the post office boxes? I mean, they've had one there filled up for years and years and years. And it didn't have boards around it, it was just community just did it, they got water, they did it all, so.
I'm up the canal and swim on the
Through
skate on
the Reeve, on the site, at least, are you referring to the site on the south side, or on the other side of the street there?
The south side, right behind to the west of the Mercantile, behind the post office
Yeah,
boxes.
so when we looked at that, when staff looked at that, we determined that there's a lot of low-lying areas in that site, and it could have drainage and water issues. So we opted for the site to the north side of the rink, because the grade is already flatter, so it's less of cost to put the rink there as it is currently.
I understand, but you actually want ponding with an outdoor rink, because especially with Chinooks in this country, if you put it up on a grade, it'll drain off the first sunny day we get Chinook winds, it'll be dry as a popcorn out there. So, that other site was low and held water, and that was good for that, so, I don't know. I'd like to see that be where it goes, because it looks like it's good, but maybe I'm off my rocker. I know that other site to the north is very clay, like if you drive out there when it's wet at all, you'll get stuck. They want gravel, they would want a whole bunch of other stuff too coming. No parking there. At least at the Mercantile, there's parking, and I know we have a letter here saying about some parking issues, but
And they just shovel off lagoons?
they have the boards, and I mean, I'm not trying to fault the project at all, I like the idea. I just wanna make sure we're not really focused, I think that's a terrible spot.
So is there water north?
There's a hydrant over there, I believe, and I think that's what they were gonna use. And then there was water there was one behind where the little, post office boxes were in the south, they got water there, 'cause they used to do it all the time. It wasn't very big, but.
Absolutely terrified of the word temporary.
Personally, my own feelings is if the councillor of the area isn't comfortable with it, why are we looking at it? You should be the one speaking in favor of pushing this, and you're not. So it's got me.
Believe me, I'm put in a bad spot here, and it's fine, I can, I knew people were looking at it, I didn't, and then I kinda heard at the last minute, this is where it was gonna go, and I'm like, oh.
I don't think you're in a bad spot. I think you're just
I'm looking
you
5,
need-
10 years down
You need
the
to go
road.
talk
Yeah.
to the community and sit down with them and come up with something that you can defend at this table. 'Cause right now, if you vote against it, I'm not gonna vote in favor of it. That's my issue. I'm thinking maybe you need to get together with the community and, our staff and the community and yourself and, go over the possibilities and the areas and come back with a positive, motion, whether it's this year or next year.
And I don't know if this is just a rush for this year to get it done, which I don't wanna rush into anything. I wanna make sure that they get, you know, and my first thing when, like, are they putting lighting in? 'Cause I know from, we have outdoor rinks everywhere else, they want lighting, 'cause people wanna go out there and see.
You could make it a larger project, make it a huge park with a,
There is discussion there in the community, I think Matt too, they wanna have,
yeah, put a huge park with a nice rink, then some outhouses.
there is discussion there, they were talking about
Not
tennis courts and
kidding.
stuff in the future too, so. And keep in mind, Muirfield paying for most of this.
Exactly. Only community that's really self-sufficient.
And my biggest fear is, same as you guys think, is it temporary? Are we gonna have to move it again, and then if it gets wrecked, moving it or whatever, if we can come up with a setup where it's, 'cause we've got so much land there, and if we got, we can do that, so.
You have first reading a motion on the floor. Can you remember who made the motion?
I did.
Thank you.
Sorry, was that Councillor Wilson?
Yes, ma'am.
That was previously put on the floor.
Well, you can still go through first reading and then, hold up second, third reading until you've had some further discussion.
Shows that we support the project.
Yeah.
I'd prefer that, yeah.
Any further discussion? I like that idea too.
We've
Keep
had-
first reading on
We've
the
had
floor,
the
keep
public
it
hearing,
open.
right here, we're in the public hearing, so,
I did close the public hearing.
With that being said, then if Scott goes back to
I know.
his constituents, and then we'd have to have another public hearing.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If he comes back with an alternate decision, and wait, at that time,
Can always
at that time, we
rescind
may
first
just
reading
go
of
through,
this.
once he has sits down, he may find out and side with them and come back and do second and third reading as is. But I think we need to wait.
Yeah, there's no harm in leaving it on,
Yeah.
and then we can always rescind it if there's a different proposal. Proposed change brought back. Any further discussion? Is any counselor opposed? Motion is carried. It sounds like there's a majority preference to defer second reading until potentially next meeting. We'll see.
Have the councillors meet with the community, and staff.
I don't think we need a motion necessarily. I think just out of your due diligence, you
Yeah.
can do that.
Council prior to second reading.
We'll get her figured out.
If you say so.
So is there a timeline tied to that?
Before the snowballs?
So, just to council through the Reeve, we're going to meet shortly after this and talk about the other sites that we have looked at as staff, and talk about the pros and cons, and then also work with the community as well on this. And we'll hopefully bring it back, hopefully by next meeting, but,
Good enough.
yep.
We'll move to 3.1. My report's in the package. There's really only one thing to highlight.
Sorry for the interruption. There's a first reading for bylaw 2020-24.
Sorry, I did call them
It passed.
vote, and it was approved, Margaret. It carried. There was no opposition.
There's also another first reading to be done before the Reeves report and the agenda 2.1.
I see what you're saying. Thank you, Councillor Kester, and thank you, Margaret. My apologies. Thank you, everybody. We will move to 2.1.3, first reading, Ag District to Direct Control. My apologies, everybody.
Oh, good. This is Megan here to present bylaw 2020-24 on page 38 of Council's package. The subject parcel is 158 acres in size and is located approximately 15 kilometers northeast of Lyalta, and it's directly adjacent to the Rocky View County boundary. It is accessed from Township Road 264. The location plan is on page 46 of Council's package. The application is to redesignate the 158 acres of the subject parcel from agricultural general to a new direct control district in order to facilitate more residential dwellings. Staff circulated the application to external agencies and internally. External agencies had no concerns or comments, and the development officer listed some corrections and initiated a discussion on density maximums for colony development. The DC district was updated to include density regulations for dwellings other than multi-unit dwellings, So the DC district was updated to include density regulations, and then for dwelling units other than multi-unit dwellings to be considered under the dwelling clustered farm definition. The aerial imagery is on page 47 of Council's package, and the existing and proposed development is on page 49. Since the submission of the land use bylaw amendment application, the developer has submitted a development permit application for multiple single-family dwellings. So staff is actually planning to present an updated existing and proposed development map at the public hearing. And we are going to open up discussions again on density regulations internally, and then present those at the public hearing. The residences are the only proposed development at this time. So a preliminary review of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and Regional Growth Management Strategy have not revealed any pressing concerns, and staff is recommending that Council grant first reading of bylaw 2020-24 as the proposal generally supports those strategies, objectives, and policies. Those recommendations can be found on page 38. We're also recommending that the public hearing be scheduled for October 6th at 9 a.m. Council has three options before them. They can approve the recommendation, not approve it, or approve an alternate one. That does conclude my presentation, and I am available for any questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
I'll move first reading to start the discussion. I'm sure there'll be some.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved first reading. Council discussion.
I'm just curious on staff's opinion. We have a rule that if we have more than, it's what, 4 parcels on a quarter section, which could have 5 parcels on a quarter section, which can have 2 houses each, which is 10 houses, 10 families, and they're mandated to have servicing. I just don't know why we have that rule, but we allow communities of 200 residents to pop up, and we don't make them tie into regional water and wastewater. I mean the discrepancy and how we treat people is totally asinine and unfair. Just because because they're minorities to an extent. And I disagree with that. Like, if I wanted my auntie and uncle and their kids and my grandparents all on my quarter section, I have to go and tie into regional wastewater because we'd want to subdivide. But it's just frustrating. And then direct control, we are saying there's no limitations really to what you can do on that parcel. You can go and build an airport, you can, with our approval, but we're not restricting them by any means. Yet we have developers from all over the southern Alberta want to come build along the number one, everything like that, and we have zones specifically for those developments. Like, it's very unfair. And I'm tired of counties and municipalities all across the province continuing in that way. I mean,
Well, why don't you let it go to first reading so we can have the public hearing and we can hear what everybody's comments are?
yeah,
Because you got nobody arguing against you right now.
but I'm not even tempted to go to first reading, cause we've seen
I know.
this about
I know where you're
5
coming
times
from,
since
but-
I've been sitting here, and it's the same every time, so. I'm just curious, is there any room on the planning and priorities agenda for next week?
There's always room.
Yeah, can I throw a agenda item down, how to write brethren, please? Okay, and their developments. So,
We do have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Is any counselor opposed?
yes.
We'll go to a roll call vote. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
In favor.
Counselor Wilson?
Against.
Counselor Bigger?
Favor?
Counselor Eichert?
In favor.
Counselor Kester?
In favor.
Counselor Armstrong? Motion is carried. A motion to schedule the public hearing.
So moved.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved. Any discussion? Is any counselor opposed?
Yes.
We'll move to a roll call vote. Reeve Link is in favor. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
In favor.
Counselor Wilson?
Against.
Counselor Bigger?
Favor?
Counselor Eichert?
In favor.
Counselor Kester?
In favor.
Counselor Armstrong? Motion is carried. Okay, now we will move
I know you do,
to 3.1.
discussion.
Just a couple of things to highlight. It was really exciting to be in Carsland for the groundbreaking for the new fire hall, as well to tour some local businesses with Councillor Bigger and MP Martin Shields. We also got to see the library and the community center and show Martin around. As well, I would just encourage everybody to kind of amplify, if you can, to your residents, the MDP engagement. There's some opportunities. There's some online engagement that they can participate in, and as well, there will be another, I think, kind of live session that will do questions and answers and a presentation. As well, I attended the CRMA District 2 Directors meeting, and we did have direction from the directors that they would like to see at least part of the district meeting be in person. So I believe administration is working with RMA to develop kind of a hybrid meeting model so that at least some councillors could meet in person. And then some will perhaps participate virtually through teleconference or Zoom or that type of thing. There was a strong feeling that, particularly with the pressures around the assessment review and that type of thing, that it would be critical to have some in-person meetings. So that's being developed. It may impact our location preferences just because we really will need like impeccable connectivity to make that work, like the hybrid model work. So I know we were looking at, I think, Rosebud, and I'm not sure administration is looking into that to see if there's the required kind of broadband there. So just so everybody's aware of that. The focus will be on advocacy and assessment for both the legal and education topics at that meeting. There was lengthy discussions about the assessment model review and the impacts on municipalities. Yeah, I would say that was the vast majority of the meeting was discussing that. Our Alberta Farmland Trust was the only resolution that I heard at that meeting that's being brought forward, but perhaps I think tomorrow's the deadline, so we may hear of some more coming forward. Exciting things happening with Marigold. Council will be pleased to hear that there was discussion just regarding fiscal responsibility and trying to do things in the most efficient way at that system level. And so they're really trying to reflect that in both our strategic planning as well as our budgeting. So they have been revising budgets based on COVID and the impacts of that. And there was really good support around, there's just under 50 board members that fit on that board, and there was pretty good consensus that that needs to be a focus. So I was thankful for that. They are having the official groundbreaking next week for the joint building with the WID in Strathmore. So that is moving forward and so far coming in under budget, so that's good. With that, I will, if there's no questions, I will move my report be accepted as presented. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.2.
Hello, my report is on page 52 of the council package. The ratification of two meetings I'm asking for is for the August 4th, the two of them there. The one was Nihil County had asked attendance from one of us, I think it was Amber, but she couldn't make it, so she asked me to attend with Nathan Cooper about linear assessment review and impacts it has on the counties in short and long term. Nihil's taken a pretty good line, and with some of our other fellow communities as well, saying that they could be 30 to 40% income impact on their taxes. So they wanted to let Mr. Cooper know that how it was coming, and of course we've heard now that we have a new person in the Alberta government about looking over this, so we'll see how that goes. And then that same night attended a landowners meeting at Crowfoot Hall for oil and gas industry for land payment. Heard from a lot of people that they're getting offered half of what their normal rent, to a third. And of course we're seeing that at the county as well, with people paying their taxes differently. Basically what I said to him is I used to think that there's two things for sure in life, with death and taxes, and then I had to add that unless you're oil and gas, and I think that is absurd, and I've actually said it to Nathan Cooper too. When we send a tax bill out, they should have to pay regardless. That's, their business like nobody, no different. So that sends a message to, my fear is it sends a message to other businesses that it's okay not to pay, and that's not right. So that's my report. Anything else that's on there? WRC put a motion forward to, there was review of having the office moved from the Rocky Ford area to standard within the water plant. Through research and everything, there's no problems with Alberta Environment. So put a motion forward to have that moved to the plant. That should have some savings for the cost of water. I think it's about $16,000 a year. $25,000 a year, sorry, I'm corrected. And then that should happen within 6 months. We have to give a notice to break the lease. So
My understanding was that that was not permitted by the grant. What has changed with that?
the managing partner had asked Alberta Environment, I think it was, and the funding body to make sure it was okay. And there was... That's all
So,
I can
do you
report.
happen to know how much has been spent to date on that additional office space that,
No.
if you could just bring that back, maybe?
Yeah, I can find
That'd be
out
great.
total cost today.
You wanna know?
Yep.
It's approximately 2 years.
2 years
So
ago?
about 50,000?
Maybe when it's all done.
And then the plant wasn't... Sorry, Glenn, when did the plant become fully operational? It's not been that long. A year, maybe?
Just before Rocky Ford got their water, the plant had to become operational. So I'm thinking 2 years at the most.
Okay, we can get that information.
Gleason
Yeah,
Water,
we can get it.
Gleason opened.
No, Gleason Water was before the plant was done. We had
Okay.
enough capacity before. And the difference was at the time the infrastructure said no offices in the water treatment plant. And Rocky Ford, managing partner, sent a clarification in on why, and I don't know, but anyway, there was maybe a misconception that the office would be used for more than water. Whatever. The clarification was made, and they said if it's just WRC business, it's acceptable, and you can move in there. There's no public access to that water treatment plant, so there'll be no storefront for WRC when the move is done. And it was all hinged on phase 2 funding agreement with the province. And it seems to be clarified now, so we're moving forward.
Excuse me.
I make a motion, Mark?
I don't think yet.
So I'll make a motion to, approve my report as presented, and then I'll add the
Let's
motion
just
after.
deal with that one
Yeah.
first, sure. A motion to approve Deputy Reeve Clausen's report as presented. Any further discussion? And is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
Can I put both meetings on one?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make a motion to, ratify per diem and mileage for 2 meetings for August 4th. One was for Nehill County, and one was for surface rates meetings at Crowfoot Hall, for mileage and per diem.
Any discussion? Any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
3.3.
Yes, I have my report here on my phone. The 24th, I had a handy bus meeting, and we are just working out the logistics of the future of the service and how to go about ending our contract with the town, bring in employees under us or taxi companies, and getting websites and Facebook pages operational for ourselves rather than under the town. So that's what we're working on right now. We created a subcommittee to really dive into working with the taxi companies and looking at hiring a manager rather than the town. So that's what's going on there. And that is the only meeting I had other than the council meetings this past month. So that is my report as read. I'll move it as read.
And that's for the services, for all of the services that the handy bus
all of the
provides?
services.
Okay, interesting. Any questions? Is any councillor opposed?
And then, oh, sorry.
Motion is carried.
And then, just chatting with Russ, 2 of the members at large terms are up on the ASB board. So just think of that in the next organizational. Both Rex Harwood and Barry Van Laar will be off. Rex is out of commission right now. He's not well. So Russ will be emailing both of them to see if they are willing to stay on the board. If they aren't, there is an extra spot if Scott wanted to come back on. So that's just the reason I brought it back, just to get you thinking about that. And then the next issue is that Rex is in the hospital, and I was thinking, because he's been a board member for the last 2 years, that we could send him from council rather than ASB, because we don't have an ASB meeting till after organizational. That we could send him his family a fruit basket or something.
It's a great idea.
I don't know. I'd put a motion on the floor that we, as council, send a fruit basket to Rex.
Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed?
Might wanna put a bottle of whiskey in it.
I was thinking not fruit, but
Yeah, I didn't know if we could do that, but I'll put we could do that with our own money, Ben.
down for that. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.4.
Yeah, my report is in the package. Nobody was there, but I had a planning priorities meeting on the 11th. It went really well.
Get it all solved?
It
Yeah.
was probably the best one ever.
We are looking good. So you can scratch that off. I want to thank Reeve Link for coming over to Carthland and doing the business tour with us. And, fire hall groundbreaking, went very well, and community is very excited. Firefighters are very excited.
You're not gonna thank me?
No, I'm not. Comments made by Tom were unacceptable. So for my Economic Development Board that was held yesterday, I just wanted to let you know that we are reassessing the board and, becoming more of a working board. We are looking at possibly, moving into different committees. There'll be more on it once it's been passed and stuff, so. They're looking at, a group going more into attracting industry, some looking after tourism, like breaking it up into three or four portfolios, yeah. Because the board is quite large and they're an eager bunch. Chamber, I'm on the events committee, so I'm looking at, hosting a 3-series, hopefully in person, but maybe webinar, or maybe online and in person, for customer service experience. It's something that small businesses could probably be doing a little bit better job, or maybe need a little bit more help. It's such a negative year this year, and even walking up to a door where it says like no cash is such a negative thing. We need to have shopping and going out as more positive experiences. So we're going to be looking at that. I have some help if that's to go through, to carry that through. Canadian Badlands, hiring a consultant. We're in the midst of looking at a consultant for tourism. As you all know, tourism got kind of etched out of our ministry. So Canadian Badlands, I think, will be a very important part in our attracting visitors to our areas. So it's a very, we just kind of got through our books and our granting, and now we're in the process of getting the consultant to get us well prepared for the next year. And I think the shareholders are going to be very, very surprised at what kind of, and delighted on kind of what the board is kind of thinking of going forward. We have a board meeting next week, which will place more, where I can say more what's going to happen. It has to be kind of approved. And with that, I'll ask my report be accepted.
Councillor Bigger has moved approval of her report. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.5.
Yeah, my report is in front of you. I think everything has sort of been covered. I was also at the shovel turning at Carson.
And we appreciated you being there.
Councillor Bigger didn't want me there, evidently. But I want to take this opportunity once again
To thank Martin.
thank council and thank Councillor Bigger for hanging in there with the fire hall. I think we experienced what project creep is on a big infrastructure project, what can happen. And the fact that we relooked over, we reset the project, and we got it done. I'm just so proud of us for doing that. We've put up
Oh, just pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
No, I.
Really
it's
to
just-
pat
No,
administration though as well.
And administration, if it wasn't for administration taking this and saying, okay, council doesn't want it this way, but we need, Carsland needed a new fire hall. And I'm just so proud of everybody that, we were able to do what elected officials are supposed to do, is provide a service at the best possible price we can. So, other than that, I think everything else has been covered, and with that, I'll move my report.
Do you wanna just speak to the innovation too, like even that we're already seeing in like the ground moving and the
Oh, yeah, no,
training?
it's like, the new fire chief, Tom, or the fire, I don't even know what his
Administration, like
designation
it's
is.
brilliant.
But, so they started working there, and they needed clay. So instead of bringing clay in, they decided that, well, we'll put a borrow pit right at the, and then we're gonna use that, and they'll use that pit, the new hole, as a pond training I mean, it's a very
Brilliant.
smart, it's a great idea, cost effective.
Whose idea was it?
Wasn't,
Mike,
I think,
Mike.
Mike? What, am I the only one, you guys?
Gonna fill it with
You'll talk about everything, but you don't give a flower?
Okay, we'll clap.
There you go, Mike.
Extra storage.
Fire chief Mike,
Oh, not that, Mike?
not the Mike, I don't think.
Well, take it,
He
take credit
probably has something to do with
where
it.
you can, Mike.
but anyway, so yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's a, I mean,
I just think it really speaks to the alignment between council and administration's focus, like strategic focus on trying to deliver service in the best way possible and the most efficient way possible. And seeing things like that, to me, that's an example of where administration is aligned with council. And that, I mean, that was, in my mind, brilliant, what they decided to do there. So I'm so pleased. So it was exciting to be out there, but it was also exciting just to see that, so. I thought you'd talk about it because you were so excited.
well, yeah, I thought I'd give you something else to do.
Right,
So anyways,
right.
I'll move my report.
Any questions or discussion?
How is it big with a flat shovel?
Is any counselor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.6.
Yeah, my report's on the server. If there's any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll move my report as presented.
Any questions or discussion?
Glenn, just on the 21st, you had that teleconference with Kevin Cooper. Is there anything that came out of that discussion?
Yeah, that, I was kind of saving that for our board meeting next week. That was for, our application for, every year at the Wheatland Housing, we have to put a strategic plan, a project. There was 110 projects received by the department. And, this year they are contacting every applicant to go over their plan. And basically, he didn't have any questions about our plan. He said it's a good plan. We update him a little bit more, and I told him we're very close to hiring an architect. We're just waiting for the contract to. It's been a lengthy contract negotiation, but yeah, everything's coming along good. So he didn't really have any questions. We've got a couple updates, and he said we had a very strong application. So keep moving along. I don't know, did that answer your question, or?
No, yeah, that's good. Thanks, Glenn.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is any counselor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.7.
Yeah, sorry. My report's in front of you. It was a very quiet month, just meetings that I attended that are listed there, and the addition of the social economic impact of a proposed energy from waste facility in Newell County makes For good reading, just keep in mind that the tables at the bottom were valued in 2015 dollars. Those haven't been updated, so there could be some change there, but
It's peso now, right? It's peso now, right?
space, yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how things are gonna flush out this fall, but we'll see. I'll move
Should
my
be able to-
report.
They should be able to add another line for disposal of masks, you know, 'cause that's gotta be a money generator.
Absolutely.
So you put those in the ocean?
They're in the water, yeah, they're apparently. sold.
Councillor Armstrong has moved to approve his report. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll just get a second motion to include as information the socioeconomic impact of a proposed energy from waste facility in Newell County.
So move.
Councillor Armstrong has moved. Any discussion or questions? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We're just
Feel
gonna-
free to share that information with
Just
anybody you
a quick
want.
comment that I'm actually meant to put in my report. Happy Alberta Day, everyone. It's, 1st of September. A big old flag up there is 100 and, what, 100 and,
I was just trying to remember how many years.
115 years old today.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
We're still treated the same as we were when we came
yep, we still are treated like shit, but we put up for it.
With that, we will take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes.
That already.
We're gonna call the meeting back to order. We're gonna move to 4.11, Chief Administrative Officer Report.
Good morning, Council. On page 57 of your agenda package is my monthly report. Everything is there. Starting next month, the Fire and Emergency Services is going to be transferred over to Matt Piscario, the General Manager of Community and Development Services. That's the last time you'll see this on here. I've also included the council resolution tracker. We were just a little bit behind on the minutes, but here's some things that were done. We're gonna just review these last points. The Farmland Resolution Trust was submitted to RMA, and we did get confirmation this morning that Rocky View County will be seconding the motion at RMA. If there's any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Yeah, just emergency services, and I don't know if Chris can answer this later or in an email, or maybe Matt can later on. I've had a number of complaints, and I've asked this a few times before. There's a dwelling on the intersection of Township 234 and Range Road 224, and they've been halfway through siding their house for 6 years now. And I've asked Chris, and he said they've got a number of formal complaints, and he said he's working on it, and I've never got an update and that was 5 months ago.
Okay. We will follow up and get you an update on that outside of the council meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the CAO report? A motion to approve his information,
I will move.
or accept his information, sorry. Councillor Eichert has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We had an addition to the agenda, 4.12, revised pay grid for 2020.
Yes, good morning, Council. This was emailed out to all of Council at 8:08 a.m. today. This is just something that we omitted to do with the organizational chart change. We did add a position of asset management specialist / project manager position. So we had to revise the 2020 pay grid, of course, and we did attach that pay grid, and it is on grid C. So that would be a salary range of 84,000 to 104,000.
Well, I'm assuming this is confidential information?
So under FOIP, these the salary ranges can be disclosed. The salary grid is also in our policies, which is posted on our website. Just however, whoever the candidate is, their salary specifically would never be disclosed. However, the range is perfectly allowable to be disclosed.
Okay.
A motion to approve the amended.
I'll move that council approve revisions to pay structure, section 621 of the human resource policy.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Any further discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report.
Good morning, Reeve Lincoln Council. On page 63 of your agenda is the September report to Council from Corporate and Financial Services. A few highlights from the report include the following. Staff are currently configuring a web-based program that will ask residents for their feedback regarding current service levels. Residents will be able to increase or decrease service levels and see the impact on their taxes. Our goal is to have this available to residents for 3 weeks in October prior to budget sessions with Council. The province has extended its contract to 2021 for the senior assessor to continue with the hybrid assessment delivery for designated industrial properties. The last day to submit tax payments was yesterday, August 31st. Managers submitted their operating and capital budgets last Friday, and Finance will start to compile the budget. Finance staff continue to implement Questica, a budget software. Staff are reviewing proposals received for investment services. We have submitted documents required for our insurance renewal and continue to remind residents that they have the option to receive their bills by email. In information technology, OneSpan will be released to staff shortly. This will allow for digital signatures. We continue to automate processes and forms in the organization. This will save time and create efficiencies for staff and improved customer service for residents. Staff are currently reviewing the proposals received for the project manager of the County Broadband Initiative. And lastly, the secure storage cleanup project is well underway with approximately 146 boxes that will be destroyed by mid-September. Are there any questions?
If there's no questions, a motion to accept the report as information.
So moved.
Any discussion? Councillor Wilson has moved. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.22, credit refund for property tax roll 335-2000.
Reeve Lincoln Council, this is a housekeeping item. Staff are asking for Council to approve the refund of a credit in the amount of $3,282.25 due to a duplicate payment on a tax roll.
Council's wishes?
I have problems giving the government money once, not to mention twice.
I'll make the motion.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved to approve the refund of a credit. Any discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.31, Community and Development Services Report.
Good morning, Council. Matt from Administration here to present the July and August 2020 Community and Development Services Report. Just quickly to update Council, obviously as CAO Henderson indicated, fire services will be put onto this monthly report. You will then see GIS, the GIS section move to the Corporate and Financial Services Report. On that, some highlights for community services. We are bringing forward the Clooney Playground and Speargrass Playground development permits to next week's Municipal Planning Commission, which is quite exciting. So that is occurring as well. We are going to begin initiating the work again for the Master Parks Community and Recreation Plan. So council will be fully engaged with that. On to economic development, we are utilizing the WC website and the real estate tools to begin marketing Lakes and Muirfield properties. So we're transitioning that as well, which is quite exciting, and ongoing work migrating websites as well. For GIS, installation of 1,700 south-facing faded signs have been completed. So continuous work will be moving forward ahead into the budget season to continue replacing those signs into 2021. Planning and development and safety codes, you can see the actuals for planning applications, safety code building permits, and development permits as well. The deltas are a little off with regards to, we are under, of course, due to COVID in several areas of the applications, but not significantly under. We are still able to kind of meet those deadlines, and the work is still very much ongoing and substantial. Protective services, just in the summer, we had 106 case files. I know the team was quite busy with the additional duties that the province did pass to them, so that kept the team very busy, and we are looking forward to moving into the fall season. If there's any questions, I can answer some.
Any questions?
Yeah, just administration on GIS. Come to my knowledge that Canada Post is going to be changing all our address so I'm not sure, and I don't know how it works. Yep. Like the post office boxes are going to be gone. And so I don't know. So how does that affect GIS? The emergency locator signs are always going to be what the dispatch uses for emergencies, even though
they don't know what it is?
Yeah, yep. Basically, because I
know what it is.
Canada Post I don't know how it's going to work, but in the next, I know in Foothills,
I give them mine and they're up by dead.
all the mailing addresses have been changed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I just don't know this.
Yep, sure. So just through the reeve to Councillor Eichert, I'll attempt to answer what I know from Canada Post, and then I'm actually going to pass it to the manager of IT if he has some supplementary comments for this. But what I know is the address changes specific to actually, you know how it says RR1 Strathmore, right, for Wheatland County? Canada Post will eventually be transitioning, and I've spoken to them actually about this. The option will come forward to change it to RR1 Wheatland or RR1 Wheatland County. So many MDs in the province have actually gone through that process already, and we are one of them, one of the balance of municipalities that still have to undertake that process. So that will just be a quick fix. It's going to be a quick one with regards to no infringement or kind of, hiccups with regards to our ratepayers having to change anything on their end. This is just a strict blanket Canada Post fix. With regards to our system in GIS and the Esri system, that is a quick fix as well, not a problem in that regard. With the numbers on the signs, there is no change there because they are the numbers. They are in the system. The numbers aren't changing. It's just the name. So, for example, again, RR1 Strathmore for Wheatland County's address. At some point soon, it's going to be RR1 either Wheatland or RR1 Wheatland County, whatever the choice may be. And that's just a blanket fix. In terms of specifics of the system, if you have anything else, Corey, to add?
Yes, through the reeve. Just to supplement what was said is, from what I understand, the blue signs will be adopted as the address. I believe GIS is working with Canada Post on that. I can get some more information, as well as I think this impacts 911 emergency services to ensure where the property is as well. So, but I can get more information and include it in our next report.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating thing for when you're starting a new company and stuff too, and they want to know your actual physical address, and you're like, legal land, blue sign, or mailing address.
Yeah.
And they're all different. And they're like, well, where
They should just put your
And
legal
one would be
land at the end of the lane, so then that's what you send them,
But
because honestly, those
some only
blue
have
signs,
access to certain parts of it.
we have so much trouble with
Somebody says they use them all the time.
Yeah, we have trouble with them all the time.
So, You had mentioned that it was an option
It's
for
an
people
easy
to choose Strathmore or Wheatland County. I think there needs to be some education for people to know, to make the right choice, because this is ongoing, right?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Claassen, what I mean is that it'll be an option, and we're gonna bring it forward with regards to Canada Post approaching the county again whenever they're ready to approach us. And then we have the discussion, and it's a Canada Post education. There will be communications from Canada Post. However, we can certainly undertake our own as well, to let everyone know.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
On, economic development, when the website gets done for Muirfield or whatever, if you could share that with the county, council,
Absolutely.
so we know what's out there.
Good idea.
Stephen, thank you.
Any other questions? A motion to accept the reported information.
So moved.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved. Any further discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
Oh, shit, I did have a question, sorry. I'm just out of curiosity, which cemeteries were inquired about? Just out of curiosity.
Ones the dead people are in.
Thanks.
Through the Reeve, I can certainly find out for you right now,
Yeah,
let you know.
Thanks, Ben. Smart ass.
We'll move to 4.41, Transportation and Agriculture Report.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, Council. It's Mike with the Administration. Page 79 of your Council package, you have the Transportation and Ag Report for activities in July and August of this year. Just some highlights from it. We are currently closing up the construction on Range Road 245, so that's good news. We have final seeding almost all done, just a little bit of garbage pickup, some rocks, and we should be out of there by hopefully this time next week. So that's good. A lot of the crew has moved, or a portion of the crew's moved out to Carsland, as GM Piscariel mentioned, for the fire hall grading. They'll be there for a little while, making sure that that's buttoned up before we start the construction on that later this year. Just to highlight, there was an inquiry at the previous council meeting on Redland servicing and the grant opportunities around that. So we did reach out to Alberta Transportation. Unfortunately, their grant programs will not cover this sort of servicing funding for that. So we'll keep our ears open for other opportunities, but as of right now, we don't find any current grant funding that will cover that servicing. So activity, we're working on the West Side servicing strategy here, going to bring some proposals for council for budget for servicing Muirfield and West Highway 1, and we are doing an analysis on actual internal trucking of that wastewater as opposed to a contractor. It looks like it'll actually be quite beneficial to the ratepayers there with what we can do in-house as opposed to using contractor services. So, good news on that. That's my report. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
Well, just a quick question, Mike. If I remember right, we got something back from the province. Are we going ahead with that, with 564 past Hermanson?
So through the Reeve, that is regarding Range Road 205, the contractor job there. I have it in the 2021 budget for discussion, so we can definitely, we had the deadline or the funding extended to the end of 2021, so we do have time to discuss that if that's still a viable or an option that council wants to look at for constructing that road. It's a $4.5 million road, knowing that we have to input 50% of that cost, so we'll have a deeper discussion during budget deliberations on that.
So if we don't go through, we lose the funding.
Exactly. That funding can only be used for that project.
Any other questions for Transportation and Agriculture? A motion to accept the report as information.
Also move.
Councillor Bigger has moved. Any final discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I don't believe we have any correspondence or information in the package today. So we will move into our closed in-camera session. Prior to us moving into closed session, can each councillor who's not in council chambers Please affirm that they're in a private setting where they will be the only person able to access confidential information in order to uphold our council code of conduct. Councillor?
I affirm.
Wonderful, thank you. And I will move us into closed session now. We'll call the meeting back to order. There's one motion arising from our closed session.
I move that council authorize the Reeve to sign a letter responding to a letter from the Village of Rockyford as discussed in camera, and further that the Reeve sign a letter to the WRC as requested, to request a meeting with the council and WRC board members and the partnering municipalities.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And that brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.